But when they launch something like that, especially when you're saying, okay, they have 1 million, I'm assuming they're making income. The what's their names again? Sorry,
Critical Role.
Critical Role. I'm assuming they're already making income, especially from YouTube and Twitch, from donations and things like that. And the question comes to my mind is, if they're already making income, why don't they fund it themselves? Or do you like, are you okay when they say, hey, we need more money, even though they make money? Like, what's your kind of thought?
So the way that I looked at it, right, is like they had these specific projects that they wanted to do. The money, like they were partnered with Geek and Sundry, and so Geek and Sundry is a company that's also really cool. I really like Geek and Sundry. They put out great stuff. They have their own Twitch, and Critical Role was one of the shows that Geek and Sundry
Had
produced. Yeah, so
Okay.
they ran on Geek and Sundry's Twitch schedule. They basically were owned by Geek and Sundry, but they got to the point where they were big enough, people were watching them. Basically, like the only reason that I watched Geek and Sundry content was because of Critical Role. So it got to the point where Critical Role was getting big enough and popular enough that Geek and Sundry, like they'd kind of outgrown Geek and Sundry. So they left and they bought their own studio. They became their own company. So like Travis Willingham, who's one of the players, became the CEO of it. One of them is the creative director now. Laura Bailey does she handles the advertising and the merchant side of the company. So
Cool.
they're a company now. So the money that they make from YouTube, from sponsorships, like
Runs the company.
that goes to running the company and paying their employees, because they now have sound technicians, producers,
That sounds awesome.
yeah, editors and stuff like that. So they have people that they need to pay.
Right.
So that money that they make, as I'm sure some of it goes into increasing production quality, that kind of stuff, but a lot of it goes toward keeping the lights on in the building and paying the people that work for them.
Right.
So then when they say, as well as now they have other shows too. They don't just do the Critical Role show where they play D&D. They have other shows that air on their Twitch. Like they have one called Between the Sheets where it's like a in-depth interview show. Like they had Logic come on, and
Logic?
they interviewed Logic.
No way. That's
Because-
wild. I know Logic's a huge gamer, so
Yeah. And so one of the guys, so Brian W. Foster, who is he's the fiance of Ashley Johnson, who plays in Critical Role, but Brian W. Foster handles, he also works with Critical Role. He runs, basically they have a talk show that they do after the episode called Talks Machina, where they'll get questions online about it, and he runs that talk
cool.
show. So
Interesting.
Brian W. Foster also does the interviews for Between the Sheets, and he's really good friends with Logic. So
Wow.
they hang out and stuff.
That's wild.
That's
wild.
So they had Logic on. They had some musician come on. I listen to a very specific sect of music, so I didn't know who she was. But
Right.
they had some pretty big, decent names come on this show. And then they have a show called All Work No Play, where two of the cast members go out and they just do activities. They did axe throwing, they did fire dancing, they did goat yoga.
So they're really expanding.
Yeah. So they're expanding a lot, right? So they had all these other shows that they're doing, right? So then when they say hey, we have this specific thing that we want to do on top of everything else that we're doing, they're like, as well as everything that we're giving to you now, we would like to make this cartoon for you, or we would like to make these miniatures for you. That's where I think if they say they need a kickstart for that, then
It doesn't bother you.
yeah, I think it makes sense.
Right. So you're definitely looking at the perspective of they're doing, they did what they're going to do. They split off, and now not only are we getting what they split off to do, but now we're getting more with more shows. They're doing things after they promise what they do to us, so they build that relationship with you. But on the other side, or on the same side, I would say, is that you're a fan of theirs and you want to support them, and especially when you're seeing they're doing this run or this thing, and you're just I want to support them.
Yeah, exactly.
Regardless of the cost. And that's awesome. I really like that a lot. That way you can kind of be a part of their journey and grow with them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think so. I'm into Dungeons and Dragons. And then, like I said, I listen to a very specific, I have a very specific music taste. So I like Mom Jeans, kind of this a little more underground, pop punk kind of things, but people who aren't very big. So I'm used to supporting artists and creators who aren't like super mainstream. And if you want, like, if someone is not mainstream, then that means they don't have
the resources.
They don't have a ton of income, right?
Right.
Because if they're niche, they only have their niche like supporting them. So if you see, like, if you have like a niche creator that you support, or a growing creator that you support that maybe hasn't been able to break into the mainstream yet, if they're not receiving that support, then they can't grow.
Right.
So the way that I look at it, like, if I support Critical Role's Kickstarter, what I'm doing is I'm helping them grow. Or whenever, like, I have Spotify Premium, right? So I don't need to buy physical albums for the bands I like anymore.
Right.
But I know that they get better contributions. They're able to...
From albums.
Exactly.
Correct.
They're able to grow and stuff more if I buy those physical copies of that. So a lot of times I will pre-order, like, I'll do pre-order bundles where I'll get like a t-shirt and the album or whatever, just because I know that if I want to see more from this artist, if I want to see more from this creator, I need to make sure that they can sustain themselves doing this.
Right, and you're supporting them. I love that a lot, and I didn't think about that either, but I'm the same way. I listen to a lot more mainstream, a lot of artists I can name, but I do the same thing, especially with the artists I really feel like really core to.
Yeah.
I always do. Of course, you bump Spotify. It's an easier way to get to and from work or whatever.
Yeah.
But I always buy the album as well because I like that physical thing. You know, you're helping them, that contribution. And although they have the money, it's like, as long as they're putting out good product, I would love to support. And that's why I was kind of curious of what your thoughts of it, because sometimes people do things online and they're like, you're already a millionaire. Like, why do you need more money? But it's like, at the same time, I mean, I understand if they're like already a millionaire, they're like, I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing, but keep giving me money.
Right.
You're like, what? But if they promise you, hey, the show's going to get better, or we're going to have this, we're going to do X, Y, Z, we're going to give you something back if you do this, and then they have a good lead, like it sounds like they do, like we're going to split up to our own show, did it. We're going to add more shows, did it. After show, did it. We're going to give you products, did it. Like, if they have a good contribution, hell yeah, support them.
Yeah, well, especially as like a creator of a like growing podcast, right? Like, I know how important it is to have that support. So like, I'm totally willing to go out and give that support to creators that I appreciate, because I think it's important.
It is.
Like, if I want them to be able to continue doing what I like, if I want to see more of what they're putting out that I enjoy, I have to make sure that it's sustainable for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously.
Yeah.
It's awesome when you find somebody that's like, hey, I love what you're doing.
Yeah,
I
man.
love your podcast. It's good. It's good support.